So last night, the San Francisco 49ers absolutely pummeled the New York Jets, a statement victory for the Niners in the opening game of the 2024 season. That was all great news. But today on this Victory Tuesday for the Niners, San Francisco getting some bad news on the Christian McCaffrey front after Kyle Shanahan just addressed the media. We're talking about that on today's 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. We'll also discuss the marvelous performance last night from Jordan Mason, who replaced CMC. Before we dive into all of this, I want to say thank you to the faithful. Last night during the watch party, we surpassed 140,000 subscribers, and during our Niners-Jets watch party, we racked up 227,000 views. No other YouTube channel came close. Really appreciate the support. So if you're coming across this program here on YouTube for the first time and you want daily shows on the Niners, hit that subscribe button right now. As for the latest on Christian McCaffrey, a surprise scratch right before kickoff against the Jets last night on Monday Night Football. Kyle Shanahan just wrapped up with the media, and he unveiled that Christian McCaffrey is dealing with Achilles Tendinitis in addition to that calf injury, which is very similar to the calf injury that McCaffrey suffered in Week 17 of last year and kind of hampered him throughout the NFL playoffs and caused him to miss Week 18 against the Los Angeles Rams. Now, CMC did tell Kyle Shanahan if it were a playoff game, he thinks that he would be able to play. But what's next for the San Francisco 49ers? The reigning NFL Offensive Player of the Year, who finished top 5 in MVP voting, who's been the most important and most invaluable skill player since the trade a year and a half ago, might be out for a little bit longer, but the emergence of Jordan Mason certainly helps the Niners absorb what is bad news here on the McCaffrey front. Here's a direct quote from Kyle Shanahan on what Christian McCaffrey is dealing with right now. The Achilles is tendinitis, and that stuff comes and goes, and when it is acting up, it's something you've got to be very careful about. Christian's very diligent about all of that stuff, and if it was a playoff game, he made it very clear to me he believed that he could go. But when you hear that type of stuff, and it's not a playoff game, and it's week 1, and especially when you're dealing with the lower extremities like that, it was a tough decision, but hearing all of the words in the long run, it made it easy. And let's work off of that last section of what Kyle Shanahan said. It was a bummer for all of you who play fantasy football and who drafted Christian McCaffrey that he did not play. But nobody cares about your fantasy team. You got to care about the long-term health of Christian McCaffrey. And the 49ers and CMC made the right decision for him to not play last night. It made no sense for him to be in uniform against the New York Jets because San Francisco is financially tied to McCaffrey through the 2027 season after signing him to that contract extension this offseason. CMC is making a lot of money. He got guaranteed cash from San Francisco. His average annual value increased, and Achilles issues are very serious because we know what could happen if the dreaded and worst possible outcome of this injury were to actually happen. It would be a disastrous blow for McCaffrey's career and for the Niners financially, but also with how much he means to this Niners offense. Now, going into this week against the Minnesota Vikings on the road, it is going to be an early game on the West Coast for San Francisco with kickoff slated for 10 a.m. 10 a.m. Pacific, and the Niners have not beaten Minnesota in Minneapolis since 1992. McCaffrey will be day to day. But if San Francisco can continue to move forward with Jordan Mason and have him in the backfield, and he's able to give the Niners the physical presence that he gave San Francisco against the Jets, I think they're going to be just fine. And that's exactly what I said on the show last week because Jordan Mason, from the time I saw him when he was a UDFA out of Georgia Tech, I said, that kid can play. And then during training camp, he was one of the most improved Niners players on this entire roster. And last night, all of that came to fruition. Adam Schefter was also on ESPN last night, and he said that, yeah, McCaffrey is out against the New York Jets. He might miss week 2 as well. And I think all signs kind of point in that direction because you simply cannot mess around or risk it with an Achilles injury. He pops that, it's the Dre Greenlaw situation. He's out for a year plus, and for a 28-year-old running back, it's not ideal. And in 2023, we know the workload for McCaffrey was crazy. He led the NFL in touches, led the NFL in rushing yards. He was tied for first in touchdowns alongside Raheem Mostert, the former Niner. He won NFL Offensive Player of the Year. And yes, so far, especially for those of you who have CMC on their fantasy squads, the Madden curse has reared its ugly head. Now, coming up next here on the show, why San Francisco is going to be okay if McCaffrey misses more time, because they're lucky to have Jordan Mason. And I said all last week, don't risk playing Christian McCaffrey because Jordan Mason can play. A lot of people locally who follow this team on a daily basis, they know that. But the nation found out last night that Jordan Mason is a dog, and we're talking about him in further detail coming up just around the corner. Let me first tell you about today's sponsor. That is Game Time. If you're looking for the best seats at the lowest price guaranteed, download the Game Time app. What's incredible about Game Time is that prices drop as the event gets closer. So the closer that you get to kickoff or the concert going down or a comedy show beginning, the prices will actually decrease. And on the Game Time app, you're guaranteed to get in the door at the lowest price. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. You can access tickets from your phone. Game Time Picks curation makes it easier to save more on sporting events, but also it's not just an app for sports. Concerts, comedy shows, theater events, and more. The all-in pricing tool is awesome. That will show you your total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. If you want to go to a Niners game this year, still plenty of tickets available. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS. Terms apply, first purchase only, to get $20 off. If you want to catch a Niners road game playing against the Vikings, really cool stadium in downtown Minneapolis, you can go to that Niners-Vikings game as well, and you can save $20 off your purchase with the last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, let's talk Jordan Mason here. What a star-studded performance for the young running back, a UDFA out of Georgia Tech, who looked anything but a UDFA in this game against the Jets, putting forward a career game with his friends and family members on hand. He totes the rock 28 times. The Niners as a team ran it 38 times, right down the throats of the Jets. 147 rushing yards total for Mason, 5.3 yards per carry along a 24, and a touchdown. And honestly, the long runs could have been more if it weren't for negated penalties. And then also, I thought he could have found the end zone a little bit more, but Kyle Shanahan elected to let Deebo Samuel score the first touchdown of the season for the Niners. And when you scout Jordan Mason, he is a punishing back who will take your will, who runs with authority. And if you're a solo defender trying to tackle Jordan Mason, good luck. Really difficult to try to bring him down because he's a wide-bodied, physical running back with a really strong lower half. He will lower his shoulder, he'll run you over, and he has this ability to just keep the feet going, allowing him to run over defenders, but to keep the pile moving as well. And all throughout the preseason, I've said seemingly Jordan Mason picks up 5 yards on every single carry. Well, last night, 5.3 yards per tote. And then some of the nuances of his game, he has good vision, he has good patience, he's a one-cut runner, which is perfect for Kyle Shanahan's outside zone scheme. He has that aforementioned power, but the kid has some giddy-up as well. He has some speed when he gets moving. And when the Niners had him on the initial 53-man roster, and when they signed him as a UDFA, I pointed to what his college coach at the time, Jeff Collins from Georgia Tech, had said. He compared him to Marshawn Lynch. And it's not just because of the dreads. It's because of the playing style. Marshawn Lynch, over the course of a game, would just wear you down. And he would run you over. He would run through arm tackles. And it would take a couple of bodies to take Marshawn Lynch down. And Jordan Mason runs with that type of power, with that type of physicality, And that really stood out to me at the time because Jeff Collins used to coach at my alma mater at Temple University. So I'm like, okay, for him to compare Jordan Mason to Marshawn Lynch, that's impressive. He also has been able to be impactful as a special teamer. A lot of people just don't realize how good he is because he's been hidden behind Christian McCaffrey, and the Niners didn't really trust him all that much with catching the ball out of the backfield last night. Big catch on third down with pass protection. But this offseason, he improved the pass catching ability. He wasn't always on the same page as legendary running backs coach Bobby Turner, but that tough love has led to Jordan Mason having this breakout performance and becoming a possible star and a real weapon for this Niners team. San Francisco able to make a statement against the New York Jets. That's a good defense, a top 10 defense, and the Niners ran right through them. And imagine if they didn't settle for all those field goals, as Jake Moody went 6 of 6, this game would have been even more of a blowout. And keep in mind, that touchdown late was a garbage time touchdown. And Jordan Mason was a part of that big statement. This Niners offensive line, which going into the year was a weakness, was a question mark, was very sound across the board. Trent Williams was phenomenal, even though he just started practicing last week. He didn't give up a pressure, by the way, and he was dominant in the run game. Aaron Banks and Spencer Burford at left guard, they were really good. Banks had to leave because of a calf injury. Burford came in. He fared well. Early, Jake Brendel got beat by Javon Kinlaw on a big third down, but then he ended up performing well. Dominic Pooney looks to be a star at right guard who could become an all-pro, and his presence, his play, has helped out Colton McKivitz at right tackle. All great things for San Francisco here. So if you were impressed with Jordan Mason, type his initials down in the comment section. Show the kids some love. Thanks for watching the show. I'll be back later with another Niners report a little bit later. Just had to give you this breaking news.